both ended up with the same outcome. Piccolo left poisoned and unconscious at the hands of Frost. Chapter 11. Vegeta takes the stage. So, Vegeta is up next against Frost, and as you might expect, it's pretty brutal. Probably a bit more brutal than you might have remembered from the anime. The anime's interpretation of this bout had Vegeta not waste any time with Frost, one punching him like Saitama out of consciousness and the ring. Now, the manga decided to tap a bit more into Vegeta's sadistic nature, and while the fight isn't much longer, Vegeta does take a bit more satisfaction in victimizing and humiliating Frost in front of everyone. You can tell by that innocent smile on his face that he has nothing but the best in— oh. Yikes. So, Frost's eliminated. So next up is Magetta. Maggie. Which again differs greatly from manga to anime. Vegeta isn't cocky going into this fight, and when Vegeta goes Super Saiyan, he can't even muster the strength to lift this guy. We later find out that Maggie weighs over 1,000 tons. Which I gotta say seems kinda strange. I don't have a problem with Maggie being that heavy, but Vegeta not being able to lift him? Something I would have for sure thought to be within Vegeta's capabilities as a Super Saiyan. This confrontation doesn't have any outer boundaries set by Champa either, so Vegeta is free to fly to his heart's content. Also, the manga's battle is much shorter, which I gotta say is a rarity thus far in the tournament. However, it ends in the same fashion. Vegeta calling Maggie some mean names. Rusted tin can shit bucket. Fucking classic. Chapter 12. Saiyan's Pride. This chapter is kept to a very high standard. The artwork, stellar, the narrative, tight, and the battle between Kaba and Vegeta is intense and emotional. Some key moments that differ from the anime include Kaba using the sunlight to gain an advantage fighting Vegeta. There are no dual Gallic guns, but Kaba's transformation mid-air in defense of a blast attack from Vegeta has to be a highlight. This version of the battle has some great choreography, but I feel could have been made better barring a line from the anime. As Vegeta goes Super Saiyan Blue to show Kaba what he has still yet to attain, he punches him, whispering into his ear, "Never forget this feeling." But that's just a small gripe. This was still an amazing fight. So Kaba goes to sit down on the loser bench because he's a loser. And Vegeta stands face to face with Hit, the final fighter for Universe 6. The battle begins and immediately Vegeta powers up to Super Saiyan Blue. Just look at it. It's so fucking awesome. This is Toyotaro at the peak of his powers. The rest of the fight follows the manga pretty much beat for beat. The biggest difference is that Vegeta in this sequence has no inner dialogue. The entire time he is fighting, the narrative is driven by Goku and the others trying to decipher what exactly Hit is up to, until boom, the fight is over. As Goku makes his way to the ring, Whis lets on that he knows how to counter Hit's time skip ability, but does not tell Goku as he values this as a training exercise. Chapter 13. The victorious universe is finally decided. The battle begins. The first notable difference comes when Goku made contact with Hit in the manga, connecting twice compared to the anime's once in base form. The dialogue between Hit and Goku is great in the manga. After Goku starts to figure out Hit's movements, Hit boasts that he'll simply change them. Goku points out that he won't be able to change his movements so easily. He does mention this in the anime too, but goes on to qualify it in the manga by saying, Hit wears a long coat with his hands in his pockets to cover his legs' movements. With that information, Goku could then infer that Hit's movements were by habit and not circumstantial, much more difficult to correct or change on the fly. Goku's a fucking genius! The battle continues, and then the biggest difference in the series happens. Goku channels Super Saiyan God. Not the blue one, the red-haired one. This is significant because in the anime, this is a form only attainable through ritual with 6 pure-hearted Saiyans. The blue-haired form is the result of a Saiyan who has attained proper ki control or God ki while going Super Saiyan. Hit begins to then have a spot of difficulty implementing the time skip technique. In the manga, Whis drops this juicy nugget of exposition on why the time skip ability is having performance issues on Goku. In short, he explains that the move works best on those whose power is equal to or less than the user. Whis just, albeit indirectly, said that Goku is now more powerful than Hit. Furthermore, he explains why Vegeta had such problems in his God form against Hit, and it's due to him powering down after he used his blue form against Kaba. Even though the form has great ki control, the ignition for the transformation burns tons of stamina. It isn't a transformation that can be turned on and off like a switch. So when Vegeta went Super Saiyan Blue against Hit, his second time using it in the tournament, he was at 1/10 the strength of his maximum power. None of this is explained in the anime and really makes Vegeta look as if he is miles behind Goku. So thank you, manga. But that's not the only difference in this chapter. Hit actually powers up in this fight. No, it isn't just for show like in the anime, he actually powers up. The manga's version also seems to have hit less composed. Oh, and at this point I should probably mention, there is no Kaioken times 10 in the manga. Moving on, the most significant difference in terms of a narrative is that while the anime insinuates Hit and Goku were neck and neck while Goku was using Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10, the manga's version had Hit against the ropes. Goku goes on to quit in the manga because of the rules restraining Hit. In the anime, there was that, but there was also a bit of displeasure in being used as a pawn by Virus. So this is one of few instances where I think a fight ended not hitting the same notes in both the anime and the manga. However, the rest of the chapter follows the anime perfectly, wrapping up the arc in a nice red bow. Chapter 14, an SOS from the future. The first thing I want to draw attention to with this chapter is that it is absolutely gorgeous. From the very first 2 pages, which instill the reader with a sense of isolation and despair, to the final scene, which is both chilling and tragic, this is by far my favorite chapter. The first notable difference is that in the manga, we don't get to see Bulma die. Instead, picking up with Trunks en route to meet Mai, while he evades the blasts of a shadowed pursuer through the streets of a ruined city. While all this is happening, the guys, including Tights, are chilling in the present while Goku and Vegeta spar. During this, Jocko explains to Bulma about parallel universes, which is interesting seeing as the teacher in this scene, instead of teaching math like in the anime, teaches about parallel universes. This forms the reader's education for the coming arc. A second noteworthy moment from this scene comes from Whis, who explains that his time leap can't work for now as it has a substantial recharge phase. He states that attempting to do so will offset the time access, thus creating a new timeline. Again, important exposition for later. The main body of the story in Trunks' timeline continues similar to the anime right up until the final scene, where both Trunks and Mai, in search of a time machine, seek refuge from Black in an old, rundown capsule port building. As they enter, a voice from a neighboring rooftop addresses them. In retaliation to this, Trunks fires a ki blast in the direction of the voice, before dragging Mai quickly inside the crumbling building. All the shots in this scene are very atmospheric. The use of grey tones and environment is spectacular and really helps set the mood for the scene. Black returns fire in the direction of Trunks, who dives to protect Mai. He instructs her to run to the time machine while she still has a chance, and that he will buy some time while she escapes. Trunks then moves to confront Black, and in this sequence, the illustrations are just spectacular. As Trunks is on the floor waiting for Black to end it all, out of nowhere, Mai shoots a barrel of fuel, igniting the room and stunning Black. In retaliation, Black fires a blast, knocking Mai from the balcony to the floor, covering her in rubble. The panels where Trunks searches for Mai are heartbreaking to say the least. Trunks stares in shock at Mai lying motionless beneath the rubble. Black moves closer. The barrels of fuel ignite and the area is illuminated, revealing the foe Trunks has been facing this entire time, Goku. And with that, brings about an end to that chapter. Fades to black. Chapter 15. Hope. Once again. This chapter picks up right where we left off, with Black staring down Trunks in the burning building. The overall narrative of this battle is the same as the anime. It even has that sudden power-up from Trunks coupled with the Misenko blast. The overall combat choreography is changed, however, making for some stunning panels that manage to add some suspense to a fight I already knew the ending to. Trunks eventually manages to buy some time to flee for the time machine. As he attempts to escape to the past, the time machine becomes entangled on some cabling. Black takes this opportunity to fire a Kamehameha at the machine carrying Trunks, who moments before certain death manages to free himself, vanishing from Black's view, leaving him unaware of what just happened. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. There is more to this chapter, and there are more differences to cover in further chapters, but I'm going to leave that for another day. Right now, I'd love to give you guys the chance to read some of that manga the way it's intended. Now, before I move ahead to my final thoughts, here's a list of things the anime had, but the manga did not. Trunks and Gotenks Water Snake Adventure, Episode 2 entirely. All the hijinks with Goku and Kinkai's planet. All the prep for Bulma's birthday celebration on the yacht. Vegeta's training in the gravity chamber. No peel-off gang, trying to appease Lord Beerus through food. Rock, paper, scissors with Oolong. Whis talking with Vegeta. Punching Krillin. Beerus versus Champa's scuffle. The entire Frieza arc. Goku and Vegeta asking Piccolo and Boo to join the team. Gohan training. Jocko and Burpman. Post-training Beards. Earth boarding of the cube. Punching Monaka. collecting Monaka on Beerus' planet, Majin Buu falling asleep during exam, tackling through Goku's Kamehameha, Evil Frost reveal pose, Special Beam Cannon, no boundary box against Vegeta, Gallic Gun and Final Flash to Maggie, that one punch from Hit that Vegeta caught, Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken times 10 the entire Butafu arc. The question you might still be asking yourself at this time is, which is better, the anime or the manga? I've given you the intro, so really it's all down to personal preference and how you like your Dragon Ball. What do I think? My hope is that having watched through this video, you realize that's the wrong question to be asking. Which one should be looked at first is a more fitting question, I think. Both, when combined, help paint a much broader, more detailed picture of the overall story. The manga touches on things the anime doesn't and vice versa. As for my thoughts, I imagine, like many before me, when checking out this manga, began reading with an air of cynicism. I knew it wasn't penned by Toriyama and was preparing myself for a shift in soul. For myself and many others, Dragon Ball has been around since we were children. The trouble with these childhood franchises is that over time, they can change into something else entirely. I think that's why GT didn't really work. It lost something. The trouble is, when your description of the missing ingredient is something or soul, it makes it understandably an impossibly difficult task to find someone to facilitate the correct kind of progression long-term fans enjoy. Now, don't get me wrong, the anime and the manga, they are very different, but I think that's the point. For the first time in Dragon Ball's history, the manga and the anime are being released side by side. To combat this, both are providing things the others aren't, giving us alternate scenarios to some of the key moments and scenes. For whatever standout moment Super has shown us, the manga has one equally as awesome. In many ways, Toyotaro is a perfect illusion. Armed with Toriyama's scripts, and an art style that even Toriyama himself concedes as being the closest he has ever seen to his own, it makes for a perfect recipe that I feel most Dragon Ball fans will love. But don't take my word for it, check it out for yourselves. These have been the differences in the Dragon Ball Super anime and manga. Please support original Dragon Ball merchandising. I've been totally not Mark. Thank you so much for watching.